Good evening. I'd like to call this month's Common Council meeting to order. We have some special guests from PAC 3326 this evening to lead us in the pledge to our flag. Would you please come forward, gentlemen? Everyone, please rise.
Wasn't in there when the pledge came on. No, one of those kids stood up, not one.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Give that roll call. Oh, well, I'll just do it right
Yeah.
here. So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the council. Madam President, I'd ask a point of a personal privilege to do something here a little bit out of order this evening. Mayor Dennis is here this evening, and he'd like to tell everybody goodbye. So,
It's my second goodbye of the day. It doesn't normally work that way. I want to thank those of you that have been around me for the past 40 years. Some folks are new enough to not remember or smart enough to forget that I started my grown-up life here in Lafayette as a police officer. And I had the honor and the privilege to work with somebody who's been in my life for that 40 years. That's that guy right there. We have had literally some of the most life-altering and amazing experiences that two men can ever have, sort of. The other thing is that the city of Lafayette taught me everything I know about good government. It taught me everything I know about public service. And it taught me everything I know about friendship and loyalty. I had the honor to serve as a police officer here and to go up the chain of command to the rank of Deputy Chief of Police. And again, the citizens of Lafayette supported me each and every step of the way. I was the long-haired cop. I was the cop that didn't really understand the paramilitary design of law enforcement. But I always felt that the citizens appreciated my approach. And that was one of the things that was unique when Mayor Rosworski and I were in the same squad car together. Tony has a physical presence. I've got a verbal one. And that made us pretty much indestructible. We were truly a team to grapple with. And I knew back in those days that Tony was somebody I could look up to. And as you can tell, it kind of worked out okay. We never planned to be the leaders of our hometowns. It just fortunately, and thank God, worked out that way. And more importantly, as leaders, we were able to bring this community together in a way unlike ever in its history, to make these two cities something that has not just been a gold mine and a diamond in the state of Indiana, but also in the country. If you look at any list that tells you where a hot place to live, where a hot place to get a job, where a hot place to make money, where a hot place to get an education, it's greater Lafayette, and that's both cities. And I like to believe that's because Tony and I have done everything that we are possibly capable of doing to try and make that happen. And we couldn't have done it without your support. The other thing is that growing up in Lafayette, even though I'm a West Side guy, made me what I am today. Working the streets teaches you lessons that you will never forget. You meet people that you will never forget. You're introduced to situations and circumstances that you will never forget. And having a partner like Tony to lean back on, or sometimes to have lean back on you, it's beyond the scope of words. So the reason why I'm here tonight is just to say thank you. Thank you for raising me. Thank you for promoting me. Thank you for keeping an eye on me. Thank you for punishing me. But most of all, thank you for making sure that my future was as bright as it was. The other thing is that, and this is the hard part, Tony Rosworski has been my big brother, in some cases my father, my mentor and my hero. He's made my life a lot different. That much I can tell you. But it's the work that we've done together. It's what we've been able to achieve. It's the way we've been able to treat people regardless of how they treat us. And the understanding that we have each other's back and love each other has made this job so comfortable for the past 16 years. The question that I've been asked is if I had the chance, would I do this longer? And the answer is absolutely yes. But my time is up. My clock is ticking and the bell's about to ring. So I need to call it a day. But I want each and every one of you to understand how much I deeply appreciate you. And each and every one of you to understand how much I love Lafayette. And each and every one of you, including those in the audience, to understand how important this city has been to me, my life, my family, and my past, and my future. Thank you all so very much, and I love each and every one of you. Thank you.
Things up, guys.
Oh, yeah. That's how it's done. That's how we roll.
Bye, guys.
I know. We'll get it together.
Okay, thank you so much for those very heartfelt words. Madam Deputy Clerk, would you please conduct a roll call?
Clinker.
Here.
Nargi.
Here.
Snyder.
Present.
Reynolds.
Present.
Hessian Weiss.
Present.
Brown.
Here.
Weiss Williamson. Here. Downing.
Present.
Allersmeyer.
Here.
Quorum present.
The first order of business is to entertain a motion to recess for the point of a public hearing on ordinance 2023-49. Mr. Clinker?
So moved.
Mrs. Nargi? Second. Would you please read that into the record?
Ordinance 2023-49, an ordinance for additional appropriation in the general fund, fund number 1010.
Is there any public comment on this ordinance this evening? Seeing none, entertain a motion to reconvene. Mr. Snyder?
So moved.
Mr. Reynolds?
Second.
Next is the approval of the minutes. You want me to? Okay. All those in favor, sorry, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I know. Okay, approval of the minutes for the October 19th, 2023 meeting and the October 26th, 2023 special meeting.
I move for the approval of the October 19th, 2023 and October 26th, 2023 special meetings.
Ms. Brown,
Second.
any comments or corrections to those meetings? All those in favor of approval of the meetings as communicated signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, presentation and disposal of claims,
There are none.
presentations of petitions and communications,
There are none.
reports to city offices on file in the clerk's office.
Fleet maintenance monthly September, renew department monthly September, waterworks department monthly September.
Those reports are available at the clerk's office during business hours as well as online if you would like to view them. We begin with ordinances for second reading. We have ordinance 2023-49.
Ordinance 2023-49, an ordinance for additional appropriation in the general fund, fund number 1010.
Mrs. Williamson,
I move we hear and approve ordinance 2023-49 on final reading.
Mr. Brown, Downing. Mr. Deal.
Good evening, Jeremy Deal, City Controller. Madam President, ladies and gentlemen of council, this request entails permission to spend an additional $175,000, which is to be assigned to the overtime line in the 2023 Fire Department budget. The department realized greater than anticipated terminations and exits from employment late in 2022 and early in 2023 that has necessitated a large number of new hires this year, reduced the number of available firefighters to man the equipment and meet the minimum staffing requirements. Therefore, those available have been called upon to work additional hours. I'd like to point out the requested appropriation is constituted by contributions from Fairfield and Perry Townships, with which the city has agreements to provide fire protection service to the unincorporated areas of those townships. So the request entails no additional tax burden to city taxpayers. So I respectfully ask your approval of this request.
Thank you, Mr. Dill. Comments or questions from council? Thank you. Comments or questions from the audience over ordinance 2023-49? Seeing none, would you please conduct a roll call vote?
Clinker.
Aye.
Nargi.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Reynolds.
Aye.
Hessian Weiss.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Williamson.
Aye.
Downing.
Aye.
Allers, oh, sorry. Ordinance passes 8-0
Thank
on
you.
second reading.
Ordinances for first reading. We begin with ordinance 2023-50.
Ordinance 2023-50, an ordinance amending certain sections within Title 10, animals, including amending Section 10-03.050 concerning animal establishments and adding new Section 10.03.060 concerning commercial sale of dogs and cats.
Mr. Claker.
I move we hear ordinance 2023-50 on first reading.
Mrs. Nardi?
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Chesnick, would you like to address that?
Absolutely. As we have mentioned on prior occasions, the city of Lafayette, West Lafayette, and Tippecanoe County, we have been meeting almost monthly to work on updating our animal control ordinances and bring some unity across how they are across all communities. As part of that conversation, we have discussed this ordinance that's in front of you, which is to prohibit the retail sale of dogs and cats. A couple of things just to point out before I turn it over to Sharon Dahl. The main focus of this language is geared towards the retail sale of cats and dogs. Animal rescue agencies are not impacted by this. Animal shelters are not impacted by this. Anyone that wanted, Humane Society wanted to partner with PetSmart to offer dogs available for adoption, that will still be able to go on. This is meant to eliminate the retail sale of cats and dogs. Some of the amended language that we have in front of you were just some minor changes to the ordinance to help clarify what the intent and purpose of this ordinance is. So the first thing I would ask is for a motion to amend the ordinance with the amended draft that you have been provided.
Thank you, Ms. Chesnick. Mr. Snyder?
Madam President, I move that we hear the amended ordinance number 2023-50.
Second.
Can we please hold a voice vote on the amendment to ordinance 2023-50? Roll call vote, sorry.
No, voice vote.
Voice vote,
Voice
okay?
vote to amend, yeah.
Okay,
for the
voice
amendment.
vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, so
Okay.
that puts amended ordinance 2023-50 in front of the council. And so at this point, I'm going to ask Sharon Dahl to approach, and she is going to provide her story on why this ordinance is important.
I have a couple of pictures
Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Thank you to the mayor and council for allowing me to speak today to voice my support of this ordinance, which will ban the retail sale of cats and dogs. I spoke this morning at the county ordinance meeting as well. My name is Sharon Dahl. I'm the board president of the Humane Society for Greater Lafayette, and I'm well-versed in animal welfare. As a quick background about retail pet stores, 99% of puppies sold in retail stores come from puppy mills. 93% of pet stores in the U.S. do not sell puppies and kittens. They find the practice unethical and sorely outdated. Finding the practice unsavory and unethical, there are currently over 450 communities across the U.S., 7 entire states, including Illinois, and 18 communities in Indiana, including Marion County, that ban the practice of the retail of sales of cats and dogs. Hundreds of lawsuits have been filed across the U.S. against Petland and other stores for their predatory lending practices and selling sick animals. Some financing plans charge as much as 189% interest. Today, I'm going to talk about two specific retail pet stores, Indiana Puppies Online and Petland. In November last year, I caught wind that Tippecanoe County had its very own puppy mill store in West Point called Indiana Puppies Online. The store is on the main drag in an unmarked building, no signage to indicate the type of business they're conducting. At that time, they had 48 small breed puppies for sale. I wasn't allowed in the back room where the puppies were housed. I had to look at pictures of the puppies on a computer screen and pick which ones I wanted to meet. I chose Tico, an 18-week-old Cavapoo, and that's the first dog picture. He had been there for 10 weeks, and his cost was $1,200. Tico wouldn't make eye contact with me. He wouldn't play with me or the other puppies. He wouldn't move when I placed him on his back. When I put him on the floor, he didn't change his position. He just stood where I placed him. The store offered financing, but they couldn't tell me the interest rate. All credit applications were online. I didn't have the option to take the application home to review prior to applying for credit. There was no background check. If I could pay for Tico, he was mine. If I wanted to purchase several dogs at a time, that wasn't a problem. They offered several levels of health guarantees for an extra cost, but the guarantees wouldn't exceed the cost of the dog. Each puppy is provided a small square of fake grass in their crate to defecate and urinate. None of the puppies are spayed or neutered, which is required by law for every Indiana shelter and rescue prior to adoption. Nearly all the puppies require grooming. If you own a pet, you know veterinarian grooming costs have skyrocketed in recent years, and these are additional significant costs to the purchaser. I followed Tico online for several weeks, and I checked to see if he was still available for adoption. After 12 additional weeks, his cost was reduced to $900, and he eventually stopped appearing on their website. That pup was in a small crate for a minimum of 22 weeks during the most critical period of his life for socialization. These pet stores prey on people who are making emotional decisions with no thought about the conditions of the animals or the high interest rates they charge. Let me tell you, it took all of my willpower to keep from bringing little Tico home. In this store alone, they offer 27 different breeds, and they currently list 81 puppies for sale. Total cost of all the puppies listed online exceed $60,000. It's big business making a living off the backs of these animals. The West Point store is connected to a wider network of stores of online brokers called Little Puppies Online. They're a known puppy mill retailer and broker in stores in Ohio, Florida, Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Indiana. Multiple stores have been issued non-compliances for lack of space, dead puppies, and overfilled cages. Knowing conditions are deplorable in many pet stores, I called the county animal control and asked for a wellness check on the puppies at the West Point store. Since there are no statewide regulations governing pet stores, the animal control officer had to rely on our county animal ordinances. Finding no dogs in imminent danger of dying, he wasn't able to remove any of the dogs. I called BOA, Board of Animal Health, and they said due to the lack of laws and their inability to enforce anything, they couldn't help. A few months later, I heard there was a bill introduced before the General Assembly by Petland, their lobbyists and other pet stores attempting to block Indiana counties from banning them. And they even went as far as to ignore home rule, trying to negate ordinances already in place. After my experience at Indiana Puppies Online, I felt compelled to testify in opposition. I hadn't been to a Petland store before, and I felt it only fair that I visit one myself prior to testifying at the State House. I went to their store in Westfield, Indiana. They had a Wheaton Terrier pup for sale, a breed I'm quite fond of. And that's the second picture that I have passed out. I have a Wheaton myself, but mine came from a shelter and not from a pet store. Just like Indiana Puppies Online, Petland has no protocols or screening for purchasers that reputable breeders, shelters, or rescues require. I spoke with the store manager and 2 employees and gave my name as a woman from Lafayette who was convicted of felony animal cruelty and neglect charges. I told them I lived in a small apartment, I had no fenced-in yard, I had 4 other dogs, no treating veterinarian, and I worked long hours. And the reason I wanted a puppy was so I could breed the dog, have lots of puppies, and make lots and lots of money. Any one of these scenarios would have sent up a flag at any rescue or shelter. The only application Petland required was a credit application. The cost of the Wheaton pup was $6,100 before tax. I told them I didn't have any money, and they offered 4 different financing options. Again, all credit applications were online, and I couldn't take the application home to review prior to applying for credit. They offered to finance the first $5,000 through their Petland credit card, and the remainder with a different finance plan. If my credit was approved, I could take the dog home that very afternoon. If I changed my mind, I only had 48 hours to return it, and I'd receive a refund except for $700. After 48 hours, Petland would keep the full purchase price, and I could not return the dog. As an animal advocate, you might think I'm opposed to breeders. While I certainly prefer people adopt animals from shelters and rescues, there are a lot of folks who want a breed-specific dog. There are many excellent breeders. They study the bloodlines to perfect the breed. They want purchasers to meet the mom and dad of the puppies and observe the condition in which they're raised. They do background checks to ensure their puppies go to excellent homes. And if the purchasers give up the dog, it must be returned to the breeder regardless of age. Many breeders also help shelters and rescues find good homes. A good breeder would never sell their puppies to a retail store, ever. Every specific dog breed has a club with its own code of ethics, things required of all members. I researched 153 clubs, and every single club prevented members from selling puppies to wholesale or retail settings. As far as an attempt to pass legislation earlier this year by the retail pet stores and their lobbyists, their bill didn't survive, but they'll be back next year with more lobbyists and more money to prevent jurisdictions across Indiana from banning the retail sale of dogs and cats. Every single shelter and rescue in our county is overwhelmed with abandoned and unwanted animals. We're bursting at the seams at critical levels. The problem is so significant that Governor Holcomb just named this week Adopt a Hoosier Shelter Pet Week to bring awareness to the growing crisis that shelters and rescues are facing. Please, help me encourage people to spay and neuter their pets and promote responsible ownership to end the glut of unwanted animals. Adopt a dog or cat from a shelter or rescue. If they insist on a breed-specific dog, they should do their research and go to a reputable breeder, not a pet store. Living off the backs of animals without ethics is a shameful practice. And we need to protect the consumer from predatory consumer practices. The welfare of these animals is not in consideration. They are simply profitable merchandise. This is solely about one thing, and that's money. We can do better. We must do better. Please pass this important ordinance. As a side note, as I told you, I spoke at the county this morning, and as did the owner of Indiana Puppies Online, or Indiana Online Puppies, the store in West Point. The owner went out of his way to blame Humane Society of the United States for all the backlash retail pet stores are receiving. It's all on them. Let me be clear. I know of no local, state, or national animal organization, including HSUS, ASPCA, Animal Legal Defense Fund, Best Friends, or Pet Friendly Services of Indiana, shelters or rescues, any reputable breeders who would ever support this line of business. He also stated the puppies could be returned. Yes, I checked on that this afternoon. They accept returns, but they won't guarantee a refund. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Comments or questions from council?
Just one. You've officially made me angry. I wish I could vote for this more than once.
Any comments or questions from the audience regarding this amended ordinance? Thank you, Ms. Dahl. I appreciate your thoroughness.
Thank you.
We're now ready to conduct a roll call vote on ordinance 2023-50 as amended.
Clinker.
Aye.
Nargi.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Reynolds.
Aye.
Hessian Weiss.
Aye.
Brown.
You betcha.
Weiss Williamson.
Aye.
Downing.
Aye.
Ordinance passes on first reading 8-0.
We move on to ordinance 2023-53.
Ordinance 2023-53, an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of Tippecanoe County, Indiana, to rezone certain real estate from R1 to I3 Crossroad Engineers PC.
Ms. Hessian Weiss?
I move for consideration of ordinance 2023-53 on first reading and final.
Mr. Brown?
Second.
Ms. Chesney?
Yes. As a preliminary matter, I do want to remark that after this ordinance was filed, the petitioner has come in and requested a decrease in the size of the area that has been rezoned. So you do have an amended ordinance in front of you that would reduce the area from about 30 acres to just under 16. And before we have any conversation, I would like to go ahead and get that amended ordinance up for consideration, please.
Entertain a motion to amend. Mrs. Williamson?
So moved.
Mr. Downing?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Ordinance is amended. Mr. Riley?
Thank you. Good evening. Kevin Riley with RTS Law Firm, representing the petitioner IMI. Over the past week, we've had some discussions and heard some concerns about the water consumption of this particular project. And so I would like to request a continuance to the December meeting for the purpose of, well, our plan is to have a public meeting next Monday from 6 to 8 p.m. at Outpost Catering for the purpose of discussing questions, concerns about water. That will be the focus. We'll certainly address other questions, but the focus would be on water. So I would respectfully request a continuance until the December meeting.
So you would like this tabled to the December 4th Common Council meeting?
Tabled, yes, thank you.
Okay, perfect.
Right, thank you.
Okay, entertain a motion for tabling the ordinance. Mr. Clinker?
So moved.
Mr. Nargi?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the ordinance will be heard at the December 4th Common Council meeting.
I'll say one more thing. I will be outside. For anybody interested, I will have the information on the meeting.
Okay,
So,
thank you, Mr. Riley. On to ordinance 2023-54.
Ordinance 2023-54, an ordinance adopting an investment policy for the city of Lafayette, Indiana.
Mr. Snyder?
Madam President, I move that we hear ordinance 2023-54.
Mr. Reynolds?
Second.
Thank you.
Yeah. First.
I think they were
Good
going to do that
evening,
ordinance.
Jeremy Deal, City Controller. Madam President, ladies and gentlemen of council, this ordinance entails adoption of an investment policy that encourages pursuit of competitive returns on the city's financial resources. The policy designates the city controller as the authorized investment officer, requires conformance with state statute regarding the investment of public funds, provides a general outline of permitted investments in conformance with Indiana code, that sets standards of prudence and ethics to be observed by the investment officer, and it has a one-year term, so we'll be talking about this every year about this time. I respectfully request that council approves the proposed policy.
Comments or questions from council? Thank you, Mr. Deal. Comments or questions from the audience over ordinance 2023-54? Seeing none, would you please conduct a roll call vote?
Clinker.
Aye.
Nargi.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Reynolds.
Aye.
Hessian Weiss.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Weiss Williamson.
Aye.
Downing.
Aye.
Ordinance passes first reading 8-0.
Thank you. Next is ordinance 2023-55.
Ordinance 2023-55, an amendment to ordinance number 2010-11, inclusion of certain property in the local Perrin-Cason Street Historic District in the city of Lafayette, Indiana.
Ms. Hession-Weiss?
I move for consideration of ordinance 2023-55 on first reading.
Mr. Brown?
Second.
Hello, Mr. Collier.
Good evening. John Collier from the Economic Development Department. You have before you two ordinances tonight, both for the expansion of existing local historic districts, and both were submitted voluntarily by the property owners. The Historic Preservation Commission reviewed both of these at their October 23rd meeting and recommended support for this ordinance. And so we'll start with the first one. It is to expand the local Perrin-Cason Street Historic District to include 1507. The legal description and boundary map are included, as well as a handful of images of the property. This is a Queen Anne cottage style home. It's built in about 1890, and the Historic Preservation Commission would appreciate your support.
Thank you. Comments or questions from council?
This is voluntary.
It is.
Comments or questions from the audience? Would you please conduct a roll call vote over ordinance 2023-55?
Clinker?
Aye.
Nargi?
Aye.
Snyder?
Aye.
Reynolds?
Aye.
Hession-Weiss?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Weiss Williamson?
Aye.
Downing?
Aye.
Ordinance passes 8-0.
Thank you. Now we have ordinance 2023-56.
Ordinance 2023-56, an amendment to ordinance number 2010-11, inclusion of certain property in the local South 3rd Street Historic District in the city of Lafayette, Indiana.
Mrs. Williamson?
I move we hear and approve ordinance number 2023-56.
Second.
Okay, so this is also for the expansion of another district. This is the South 3rd Street Historic District to include 505 South 3rd Street. This was a Greek revival structure that was originally built in 1844 as a church. In fact, it's one of the oldest churches in the city. It's no longer functioning as a church. It's now been renovated for residential. The legal description and boundary map are included in some images as well, and the Historic Preservation Commission would request your support.
Thank you. Comments or questions from council?
I must have dreamed this, but I thought we already passed on this one. I guess we did not.
No, we did not.
Okay. I must have dreamt it.
Historic preservation did.
Comments or questions from the audience? Please conduct a roll call vote on ordinance 2023-56.
Clinker?
Aye.
Nargi?
Aye.
Snyder?
Aye.
Reynolds?
Aye.
Hession-Weiss?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Weiss Williamson?
Aye.
Downing?
Aye.
Ordinance passes 8-0.
Thank you, Mr. Collier.
Thank you.
Next, we have ordinance 2023-57.
Ordinance 2023-57, an ordinance for additional appropriation in the Park and Recreation Operating Fund, Fund Number 2040.
Mr. Klinker?
I move we hear ordinance 2023-57 on first reading.
Mrs. Nargi? Second. Thank you. Mr. Deal, you're getting exercise tonight.
Madam President, ladies and gentlemen of council, this is another additional appropriation request for the Park and Recreation Operating Fund. We realized through budget analysis some shortfalls, a little bit of budget deficiency in a handful of accounts. Request your authority to remedy those. We're requesting a $10,000 addition to the insurance line in the Park Administration Department within the Park and Rec Operating Fund. We're requesting $35,000 in the temporary salary and wage line in Park Aquatics Department, and $5,000 additional for animal feed in the Zoo Department. The explanations for these are just incremental costs, unforeseen. In the case of aquatics, we did have some mid-year raises to be and remain competitive in our hiring and retention of employee efforts, with lifeguards being very hard to come by, a lot of competition in the area. Insurance was just unforeseen and up this year. Animal feed, I think we had a couple of different situations there. We've got some hungry penguins and otters. To have a seafood diet, that gets expensive. And we had a supply that we relied on in the past that was no longer available for rodents. I think we had a free supply for a long time of mice, and those ran away. So I request council's approval of this $50,000 addition. The park operating fund is projected to have a year-end uncommitted balance of $960,000, so this is completely fundable, and no issues there. I ask for your approval. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So both, so the from and the to are the same, but that's correct?
That's indicating the fund.
Okay.
It's, we're taking uncommitted cash and,
Committing it.
Okay.
yep, committing it.
Gotcha, okay.
Any other comments or questions from council?
Where do we get free mice?
We don't anymore. I think it, yeah, it may
mice
have been
mill.
from Purdue.
Yeah, mice mill. Got a mice mill.
mice mill.
Sorry.
Three mice.
Thank you, Mr. Deal.
Sued.
Comments or questions from the audience over this ordinance? Madam Deputy Clerk, would you please conduct a roll call vote on ordinance 2023-57?
Clinker.
Aye.
Nargi.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Reynolds.
Aye.
Hessian Weiss.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Weiss Williamson.
Aye.
Downing.
Aye.
Ordinance passes 8-0.
I entertain a motion for a public hearing on this ordinance on December 4th at 6:01 PM. Mr. Snyder?
So moved.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Next, we have ordinance 2023-58.
Ordinance 2023-58, an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of Tippecanoe County, Indiana, Uzo Amendment Number 111, Omnibus Amendment.
Ms. Hessian Weiss?
I move for consideration of ordinance 2023-58 on first reading.
Ms. Brown?
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Jones?
Yes. This amendment to our zoning ordinances is really more of a technical amendment. One of the items that it addresses is the, when we adopted the agricultural rental hall provision, the intent was to only place restrictions on those rental halls located in agricultural zoning districts to require a special exception. However, the language that was adopted inadvertently did not make that clear, so this is clarifying that the special exception is needed in the agricultural zoning for an agricultural rental hall. The second component of this is the Tippecanoe County Building Commissioner Mike Wolf asked to change the definition from manufactured home, which is really the definition that we put under manufactured home is really what's considered a modular home, which are I'm having trouble tonight, which are completely separate types of buildings. So what this ordinance will do, this amendment will bring the terminology that we use in our zoning ordinance in compliance with what you will see in the state building codes and general common knowledge of the names.
Thank you. Comments or questions from council?
It's basically cleanup.
It's cleanup. Thank you.
Comments or questions from the audience over this ordinance? Seeing none, would you please conduct a roll call vote on ordinance 2023-58?
Clinker.
Aye.
Nargi.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Reynolds.
Aye.
Hessian Weiss.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Weiss Williamson.
Aye.
Downing.
Aye.
Ordinance passes 8-0.
Thank you. Our final ordinance this evening for first reading is ordinance 2023-59.
Ordinance 2023-59, ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance of Tippecanoe County, Indiana, to rezone certain real estate from CB and RTU to PD MX-600, 635 and 703 North 4th Street, Lafayette, Imagination Lofts LLC.
Ms. Williamson?
I move we hear and approve ordinance 2023-59.
Mr. Dunn? Thank you. Hello, Mr. Carson.
Good evening, Dennis Carson, Economic Development Director. I'm here tonight before you to support this planned development, Urban Point. The petitioners have worked with me, my department, and the neighborhood to create a project that, as the area plan staff and the area plan commission agreed, respects the intent of the Centennial Neighborhood Plan and its form-based code overlay. However, it does not conform completely with the form-based code overlay, and that is why it's before you tonight as a planned development. As a planned development, this required negotiation among the city, the neighborhood, and the developer, which allowed for more input and changes than would have been allowed to build as right within the current zoning and form-based code overlay. One of the petitioners, John Carone, attended 2 neighborhood meetings and made changes to the architecture, particularly to the rental building, to better reflect the neighborhood and its history, such as the former multi-story Thiemann Wagner Brewery building, which was formerly located in the area, reflecting its urban style and some of its masonry brick details. He also agreed to assurances such as targeting downtown service and entry-level professionals as tenants with an appropriate rental price point without sacrificing quality of construction or amenities. Other changes were made to the owner-occupied townhomes with materials and the architecture, particularly on the side facing 4th Street. As with any planned development, is a negotiation compromise, though neither side got everything they wanted. Both sides were able to agree upon many positive changes that will create a lasting asset for the neighborhood, the downtowns, the city as a whole. So tonight, I'm asking for your support. So,
Thank you, Mr.
thank you.
Carson. Questions or comments from council?
I just might add, Mr. President, this was a 14 yes, 1 no at the APC, and we like the PDs. The plan looked very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Yeah.
Thank you.
Ryan Munden with RTS Law Firm, here on behalf of the petitioner Imagination Lofts LLC. Petitioner's proposing a CB and R2U to PDMX rezone. The project consists of 2 sites. The first site is at the corner of 4th and Vine. It's currently undeveloped. This site is immediately to the north of Imagination Station. It will contain a 5-story mixed-use building containing 56 apartment units. They're all 1-bedrooms. There will be approximately 1,200 square feet on the ground floor for commercial space divided between 2 units. And there will be 43 parking spaces on an internal parking garage on Site 1. Elevations for Site 1 are shown on page 1 and 2 of the packet that I just handed out. Site 2 is at the corner of 4th and Wall. There are currently 2 single-family structures at this location. Those will be raised and replaced with 6 townhouse-style residential condominium units. Each will be 2-bedroom with private garages underneath. There will also be an additional 13 surface parking spaces on Site 2 that will also service the commercial spaces at Site 1. Elevations for the townhouse-style residential condos are on page 3 of your packet, and then page 4 shows the site layouts for both sites. As Dennis mentioned, these 2 sites fall under the Centennial Neighborhood Overlay, which calls for this area to be a neighborhood mixed use. According to the UZO, this sector is designed to augment the mixed-use environment of the near downtown sector while transitioning into residential sectors. Row houses, apartments, commercial, and mixed uses are all called for as appropriate building types, and we believe that we have definitely satisfied that intent with our project. The area plan staff also described our project as sensitively designed with the overlay in mind, and we would agree that that is an appropriate description for this project. Also, as Dennis alluded to, in May and August of '23, our client initiated formal meetings with the Neighborhood Association to discuss our project. On May 8th, our client invited members of the neighborhood to tour a similar property developed by the petitioner, which is Pullman Station. And as part of those meetings, we heard feedback and incorporated that into our project. We believe we've conducted a successful plan development process. Height is one point that was raised by an individual at the Area Plan Commission. We assume you will hear that again tonight. With respect to height, we are at 60 feet, which is approximately 10 to 12 feet taller than what is permitted by the height standards in the overlay. The site was a former manufactured gas plant. You can see photos on page 5 of your packet of the former silos and bins that were located on this site. Those were approximately 80 feet tall. To the north is the former site of the Thiem and Wagner Brewery. On page 6 of your packet is a postcard showing the old brewery. And then the last page shows a photo looking from the brewery to the silos and the bins to the south. So the point of those photographs is to show that historically there were structures much taller than what we are proposing here in the area. There are also environmental problems that showed up on the property. During the 1980s railroad relocation, this impacts our height because there are environmental restrictive covenants that prohibit residential on the first floor. So we had to take that into consideration when designing this project, which also led to the height we're at today. We believe this project will be an impressive gateway to Lafayette as you travel west across the Harrison Bridge into Lafayette. We're very excited about this type of development in this part of downtown. We believe it'll provide much-needed housing for an area that's currently underserved and also provide housing type that is underserved by current inventories. As Jerry mentioned, the Area Plan Commission voted to recommend approval of our petition, and we would respectfully request your approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Mr. Mundy, just to be clear, the townhomes are owner-occupied, correct?
Correct. The plan development does allow that those be leased as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Comments or questions from council? Mr. Klinker?
Yes, you mentioned that the first floor was not, with the environmental concerns, you couldn't have residential. How does it affect the businesses in the first floor?
Those environmental covenants are negotiated with the state. So they do allow commercial on the first floor and parking. It's just not residential. I would assume that the environmental experts determined that being in a business for limited periods of time is safe as compared to living in a unit on the first floor.
What is the environmental problem?
My understanding is that the issues weren't on this site specifically. They were to the north and west. There were 53,000 cubic, and I'm going to get the specifics wrong, cubic yards of material removed and monitoring wells. It had to do with the former Indiana gas plant that was there. Yeah.
Any other comments or questions from council?
Mr. Munden, thank you so much for being sensitive to the downtown neighborhood. I think these are extremely tasteful. I think it will act as a very nice entry into and out of the city of Lafayette area and will enhance that particular area downtown greatly. So thank you for taking the extra steps. I know you probably took great pains to do this, and it was probably not exactly what you wanted to do or your clients wanted to do, but we appreciate you keeping with the neighborhood flavor of downtown, and I think this will very much keep with that flavor down there. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mundy. Comments or questions from the audience over this ordinance? Okay, seeing none, would you please conduct a roll call vote in ordinance 2023-59?
Klinker?
Aye.
Nargi?
Aye.
Snyder?
Aye.
Reynolds?
Aye.
Hessian Weiss?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Weiss Williamson?
Aye.
Downing?
Aye.
Ordinance passes 8-0.
Thank you. On to resolutions this evening. We begin with Resolution 2023-27.
Resolution 2023-27, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Lafayette, Indiana, authorizing the participation of said city in the motor fuel budgeting program of this Indiana Bond Bank, the execution of the qualified entity reimbursement agreement in connection therewith, and other related matters.
Mr. Klinker?
Move we hear Resolution 2023-27 on first and final.
Mrs. Hardy? Thank you. Mr. Dion?
Good evening once again, Madam President, ladies and gentlemen of council. This resolution will allow the city to participate in the Indiana Bond Bank Fuel Budgeting Program, as we have now for many years. The program offers budgetary protection in case of extreme commodity price volatility, like we did witness in 2021, 2022. With the current state of global affairs and even military conflicts abroad, I would argue that this would not be a good time to withdraw from participation in the program. The program entails an administrative fee of 15 cents per gallon hedged. We choose our level of participation by way of a percentage of our estimated gallonage of both gasoline and diesel to be used in the coming budget year. And that final determination will be made soon as I consult with the mayor and we talk things over, decide what level we're going to participate there. Our annual gas usage is estimated to be 224,000 gallons, and we expect to use about 136,000 gallons of diesel fuel. This current year, I'll offer, was not a good year for our participation. We had relative price stability, even though the price was generally closer to the cap than to the floor of the current agreement. Next year's agreement will not be a collar like today's, or this year's hedge. It will be a cap-only structure once again, which is what we'd really prefer to participate in. And then when the price bottom falls out, we reap the rewards ourselves.
Good thinking.
I respectfully ask that council once again allow us to participate in this program.
What do you expect we have saved on that overall? I know this year was tough, but what do you,
This year, we received one rebate check in the amount of like, I think it was $529. That was back in May, when prices took a temporary spike. The last 2 years were very good. Last year, I think we netted 6 figures. We were to the positive. Yeah. And the year before that, it was just not too much shy of 6 figures. So that, it was good, but that's not, the purpose isn't to make
Right.
money, it's to protect our budget.
right?
We could, you know, if prices really took a severe spike, we could
Stability.
be in a,
Yep.
yep, a spot.
Making money is nice.
That's a nice byproduct, yes.
As we continue to replace fleet as they age out, do we have any plans for electric vehicles or other means of?
We have 2 electric trash trucks on order. They're partially paid for by a grant from the Volkswagen diesel mitigation. It's a settlement from their, a little issue they went through a few years back with some fitting on some reports, I think. We expect to have those in our possession in the spring. Other than that, no huge expansion of EV fleet.
We've talked to people about it, but we've not made any decisions yet. Financially, it's not quite lined up yet.
We do expect, as we renew our fleet to with newer vehicles, to experience better efficiency.
Thank you, Mr. Deal. Comments or questions from council? Members of the audience, comments or questions over this resolution? Seeing none, would you please conduct a roll call vote on Resolution 2023-27?
Banker.
Aye.
Nargi.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Reynolds. Hessian Weiss.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Weiss Williamson.
Aye.
Downing.
Aye.
Resolution passes 8-0.
Thank you. Next resolution is 2023-28.
Resolution 2023-28, a resolution of the Lafayette Common Council opposing construction of a pipeline to divert water from Wabash and Taze River aquifers to the LEAP Innovation District.
Mr. Snyder.
Madam President, I move that we hear resolution number 2023-28.
Second.
Thank you. This resolution comes to you tonight with full support of the council in light of the current IUDC's plan for the LEAP project involving millions of gallons of water being taken from this area of the community and used for purposes that we're not 100% sure on because the transparency has been quite lacking throughout this whole process. So all of the council members before you and the mayor as well have signed in support of this resolution as a step to continue to make sure we're taking care of the citizens of this area. And we want to make sure we're doing all we can to keep our resources safe. I think the mayor would also like to do some speaking tonight towards this resolution.
Yes, just quickly, I just wanted to thank the council for the passage of this resolution, and thank you for the support that you've given me over the last many, many months. We've actually been working on this for quite some time, and I've been involved in so many different meetings, it's hard to describe. But I think this is an important next step for the council to consider, to continue to show that solidarity now with other communities along the river that are also doing the same thing, and we're working together to try to find a solution to this and to make sure that our community is protected. I've said it over and over, we can't think about, and they can't think about 5 years, even 10 years. We need to be thinking of 100 years from now. Could this do to our community and to other parts of Indiana, up and downstream? There's a lot to it, and so I appreciate the backing you've given me through all the meetings that I've had, and we're going to continue to do those, and we'll continue to keep you advised as we move forward. But thank you for everybody signing on to this resolution, and as we fight no other way to put a very important battle, probably, as I told some of the media and some of my the biggest thing that I've ever dealt with in my 20 years. This is the thing that we have to get right. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Comments or questions from council? Comments or questions from the audience over this resolution?
Perry Barbie, 3700 Rudbud Avenue. I just want to public tell you guys that I'm glad everybody's back in the support of this because all my journey throughout the community, I can count on one hand how many people is against this. Most people for this because we got to look at not just today, we got to look at, like the mayor said, we got to look at our future. Because I just want public to put that on record.
Thank you, Mr. Excuse me, my throat's going out tonight. Any other public comment this evening over this resolution? Seeing none, would you please conduct a roll call vote on Resolution 2023-28?
Blinker.
Aye.
Nargi. Aye. Snyder.
Aye.
Reynolds.
Aye.
Hessian Weiss.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Weiss Williamson.
Aye.
Downing.
Aye.
Resolution passes 8-0.
Thank you. Next resolution is Resolution 2023-29.
Resolution 2023-29, a resolution adopting the 2024 Common Council Calendar of Meetings.
Ms. Hessian-Weiss?
I move for adoption of Resolution 2023-29 on first and final reading.
Mr. Brown?
Second.
Okay, since Cindy's not here, I'll take care of this. This is the council meeting dates for 2024. As always, it's the first Monday of the month, with the exception of January and September to accommodate the New Year's and Labor Day.
Any comments or concerns from council over these dates? Are these on the website as soon as we pass, so people have access to them?
They should be.
Okay. Comments or questions from council, or members of the audience over the council dates for next year? Seeing none, would you please conduct a roll call vote on Resolution 2023-29?
Blinker.
Aye.
Nargi.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Reynolds.
Aye.
Hessian Weiss.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Weiss Williamson.
Aye.
Downing.
Aye.
Resolution passes 8-0.
Thank you. Resolution 2023-30 is next.
Resolution 2023-30, a resolution honoring SIA induction into IMA Hall of Fame.
Mrs. Williamson?
I move we hear and approve Resolution 2023-30.
Second.
Mr. Mayor?
Madam President, ladies and gentlemen of the council, just quickly, thank you for this resolution. We talked about it at the last meeting. As you know, Subaru has been entered into the Indiana Manufacturers Association Hall of Fame. They are a very important part of our community, employing about 6,500 people, and they're also very giving back through their foundation and the different activities and events and organizations that they get involved with. So I think it's quite appropriate that we do something formal to recognize their contributions in this honor. And I'd like to have the clerk then make sure that SIA gets a copy of this resolution, and we'll also draft a letter to go along with that and get that out to them so they know the appreciation from my administration and from this council for the continued good work they do in the community. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Comments or questions from council? Members of the audience, comments or questions over Resolution 2023-30? Seeing none, could you please conduct a roll call vote on this resolution?
Blinker.
Aye.
Nargi.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Reynolds. Hessian Weiss.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Weiss Williamson.
Aye.
Downing.
Aye.
Resolution passes 8-0.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our final resolution this evening is Resolution 2023-31.
Resolution 2023-31, a resolution authorizing the use of Indiana Code 36-1-11-5 for sale of certain real estate North 26th Street.
Mr. Klinker?
I move we hear Resolution 2023-31.
Mrs. Nargi?
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Chosney?
Yes. There are different methods for the city to utilize when we need to or have the opportunity to dispose of surplus property. One of those methods is to offer the surplus property to abutting real estate owners. This particular piece that we're talking about today is a .017 acre piece of property that is surplus right-of-way. It is not needed for any city purposes. That can be beneficial to the Ironman apartment complex they are looking to build at the corner of South and 26th Street. The reason that this is in front of you today is because the state statute that authorizes the use of the abutting property owners does limit it to properties that have an assessed value of less than $15,000 unless the city council authorizes us to use it in other circumstances. So today we are requesting that you authorize the use of the abutting property owner surplus disposal section for this transaction. The actual offering will be done through the Board of Works. They have a resolution tomorrow morning to start the process of offering the real estate.
Thank you, Ms. Chosnick. Comments or questions from council?
So it will be purchased at market price?
We did, in this one, there were 2 appraisals obtained, and it is being offered at the average of those 2 appraisals per state law.
Comments or questions from the audience over this resolution? Seeing none, would you please conduct a roll call vote?
Clinker.
Aye.
Nargi.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Reynolds.
Aye.
Hessian Weiss.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Weiss Williamson.
Aye.
Downing.
Aye.
Resolution passes 8-0.
Thank you. Reports of standing committees this evening? Reports of special committees? Reports by the mayor? Nope. Miscellaneous and new business? Reports of council people? Okay, the floor will now be open for public comment. Please state your name and address when approaching the microphone and keep your comments to 3 minutes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brian Coker. Good evening. I hope you're all doing well. I live at 109 Park Avenue. I'm giving this public comment tonight here in earnest. I do my best to attend these meetings when I can. I hold down a full-time job, participate heavily in the arts and organizing communities here in Lafayette, and recently bought a house. And as anybody knows, that is a big learning process as a first-time homeowner. I love this city. I plan to make it my home for a long time. I have heard that this body states they appreciate public participation in local government, which did surprise me to hear some comments that were caught on audio recordings from the last meetings that took place over the past month as the City Council reviewed and voted on the proposed budget. There were public comments that were submitted ahead of time in regards to the salary increase for sworn law enforcement professionals as a 3% higher than the general civil position in the city. And these letters called for our city government to think of creative ways we can use our funds to meet the needs of our city. At one point, a comment was caught by a member of this body that said sending public comments but not showing up in person, as if that would, have a degree of making it more important. Myself and fellow community members have jobs, families, they're teachers, they're labor workers, they work at the university, and sometimes getting a public comment in is one of the few ways for them to actually participate in this process. And I don't think that a public comment via email makes it any less important. There were other comments that were made, at least by somebody on this body, that said because they were similar in nature that we couldn't take the validity of them or take them as seriously. Perhaps they were generated on Facebook. So I'd like to take a moment to share how these letters came to be. I am a member of Showing Up for Racial Justice. I connect with various individuals in this community who care about the material conditions of people of color who live here. I know this body believes this is important, as we declared racism a public health crisis 2 Junes ago. When I gather with these community members, we discuss what's going on in the community. And in fact, we have a standing meeting where we review every agenda to see what's going to be talked about and decide if we want to come or make a public comment. We do this on things that we find to be important. The letters you received were not plagiarized. They were collectively written by individuals who share a set of values. And while I really do appreciate Mayor Wazorski's clarity on, where did those walkie-talkies go, and the differences between civil and sworn law enforcement professionals, I do think we still believe we can be more creative. We don't want to continue to fund carceral systems when we can use our money to meet the needs of the community. Access to food, access to resources, access to housing, all these things help keep people out of prison and out of the carceral system. And we believe as a community of individuals we can do more with our money and get a different outcome than the same old, same old. That's my time. Thank you for your time. I am open to feedback of how we can best engage you, whether that's a signed letter where we all sign off together, if we rewrite them separately, but these are things we care about, and we did want to note that we think it is still important even if they are similar in language.
Thank you.
We do appreciate you coming forward, and we do appreciate public comment, and it is unfortunate that those comments were made, but we do take our jobs seriously, and we do want public comment, and housing is important.
Yeah.
And we're working for that too as well. Unfortunately, this was not the avenue by which we could do that. We want to make sure that we have good public safety and that our police officers are well-trained, and they are, and they do fit the needs of our community, and they are trained very well in de-escalation as opposed to escalating problems. So please stay engaged and work with us to try to meet those other problems that you're talking about. It's the citizens that make a difference.
Yeah, we will definitely continue to be engaged. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Sir?
Yes.
I was the person who made the comments about the contents of the letters.
Sure.
And I was concerned because when I hear things being brought before us that are word for word the same, I am more concerned about churning of manufactured consensus.
Sure, absolutely.
And I think that we as a governmental entity have to be aware of that and not be swayed by those kinds of things, because we have no idea what's behind them. You know, if you want to talk to us, just talk to us.
Yeah.
You don't have to say, everybody doesn't have to say the same things.
Yeah.
Because I guess what bothers me was that the letters all had the same mistake in them.
Yeah.
As far as turnout gear for the police. No, that's fire.
Sure.
You know, help us out here. Let us know this is really you.
Yeah, and I think one way I think we tried to do that was, as is instructed, to make sure to include your name and your address, right? So they did all come from individuals who live in this community, right? We just collectively penned the letter. So all of this, like I said, I'm a learner, so I'm taking things away from this meeting about how we can best engage the council when there are things that, you know, we really do want to think about. I'm so grateful to hear everybody talk about our future and wanting to make sure we have access to water and resources. I see a future where prisons are not the solution, where we have access and needs are met. And I think too often, as folks here probably know, folks with mental health issues, folks with disabilities end up behind bars not getting the help they actually need. And our fear is if we only increase funding for police, it is likely that more people could end up in those kind of cases. So just wanting us to think about all the possibilities available to us, and I very much appreciate the comments, the feedback, and look forward to continuing to engage with this body.
One thing that I would like to tell you is that we have hired civilian personnel
Yes,
to
I'm
help
aware.
with these types of things. So we are working toward that and trying to help keep the police from having to deal with things that they don't want to deal with themselves as well.
Yes, I know. I think that's a kind of a shared understanding, right? Is that they've been called to all these things. The thing at least as far as my understanding about those positions it's not exactly the person going out when the crisis is happening. It might be an after the fact kind of a thing. So, you know, who can be involved in the moment of crisis, I think makes a big deal about the de-escalation of a particular incident. But I do appreciate that.
I think you would find the police department more than willing to work with the citizens to have input.
Absolutely.
Particularly our chief.
Yeah.
He's very open. So please stay engaged.
I will. You
I
betcha.
think too, as us being your local representatives, we're your first line of government. But I also want to encourage you to pursue knowledge of state and federal mandates, because often what we decide is it has to be within the parameters of mandates from government that's out of our control. Sometimes we don't even have the jurisdiction to do that. But I think sometimes too, as your local representative, that's your first stop.
Sure.
So I would encourage your group, as you're pursuing ways to become involved, also reach out to your state representatives as well.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mary Faulkner. I'm back again. I want to talk about public safety in relationship to dog attacks. I lost my dog when I came before. My other dog was attacked. My new dog was attacked. There has to be a policy to address this. It is a public safety concern. I put that out on Nextdoor. I asked people to come to this meeting if they had been attacked. I don't know if anybody came. If they did, I would like for them to make some comments. I got 28 responses from people about dog attacks. I had a lady say that she spent $5,000 saving her dog. I had another one where a gentleman was attacked with his 2 dogs by 2 pit bulls. Okay, so what we need is someone to it needs to be addressed. We need some animal control at night. In my neighborhood, people like to let their dogs run at night. I've encountered this dog several times. I found the dog in my yard again, but we weren't outside. I didn't call because I knew there was no one from animal control to do anything for that. Maybe an officer at night that is also versed in animal control would be helpful. I don't know what else to say. It is going to be a matter of public safety because someone is going to be harmed. Not just a dog, a person. It could be a small child. I have 3 aggressive dogs right next to each other. Yeah. Some people believe in controlling their dogs. I think one thing should be, if the dog attacks, it goes to the shelter, the owner's counseled, and he's required to go to training. These people need to train their dogs. And I guess that's the end of my comment.
Our current policy involves that.
If you would, yes, I can address that. So our animal control ordinances, which are in the middle of being redrafted in connection with the county and West Lafayette, they do address dangerous animals. There are provisions in there. You are not allowed to have a dangerous animal within the city limits. The way that it typically works is when animal control responds, if they determine the animal should be impounded, the owner does have the right to appeal that to the Board of Works. When the board typically, I'm trying to think of circumstances where on a dangerous animal, the board did not terminate ownership rights. So we do have that in there. I understand what Ms. Faulkner is saying, but we do have those in place. But sometimes, the first incident is where that is difficult. And Mary, I'm very sorry to hear that your new animal was attacked as well. Good.
Good. I'm now walking with a large stick and pepper spray.
So, but these issues are things that the city and the county and West Lafayette, we are all looking at together to collaboratively come up with solutions to these problems. So it is something that we're aware of and are making sure that if there are enhancements that can be done to our ordinances to help with that, then we will be looking at that.
It's unfortunate that we can't legislate against bad neighbors, but unfortunately, that's not a case. And
I would encourage you to, every time there is an incident, to call.
yeah.
It's very important that anytime there's an incident, anytime there's a loose animal, that data is important for them.
I think some people's perception is though if I call and there's no action, why call? And I've been encouraging my neighbors to call. We have some neighbors who let their dog out at the school bus. We have a school bus dropping here and
And can you come to the microphone? Can you come to the microphone?
sorry.
Just so that it's for the,
Well, we have an issue with the school bus stop where the kids are here, the dog's over here. They have a 4-foot fence. They know the dog is vicious. He can jump the fence. And no one calls. And I'm like, you have to call. Because if you don't call, no one's going to take action or talk to these owners. We tried to talk to the owners. I tried to talk to these people when they moved in. They don't want to hear anything, so.
but they're constantly at LPD, especially looking at all the data for trends and analysis. The more calls they have, the more action will be taken.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a safety concern, because there's these kids waiting for a school
Right.
bus.
Great.
Any other public comment this evening? Mr. Clinker?
Move for adjournment.
Mrs. Nargi? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. I want to stay here longer. These chairs are pretty comfortable. Hi. Yes, can I finish?
Is there an exhibit to it? Well, there should be the participation agreement, but